Alright, so I'm a little bit early for the boarding of my flight to Japan. It's been quite a whirlwind waiting in security, looking for the airport lounge, which is a little bit too far away from this gate. And now, just gonna relax until I board. This is gonna be my first ever international flight on first class via Hawaiian. So that should be pretty cool. Alright, so I've made it into Shinjuku and I am checked into my hotel over here. Um, I'm ready to go do a little bit of shopping, maybe get some soap and some other stuff, and maybe get some other warm clothes. I have a few, but it's mostly long sleeve shirts and it's not quite that cold to need it. But yeah, I'm gonna go shopping for a little bit and then probably go get some drink and yeah, go explore Shinjuku a little bit before I turn in late. Alright, go. The first 4 days of my trip in Japan were spent in Shinjuku. On the very first day, I went ahead and just relaxed and also did a little bit of shopping for some extra winter clothes that I thought I might need. During this leg of the trip, it was fairly warm, um, and you can kind of see that in some of the video footage that's shown here. It was maybe about in the 50s, high 40s, so it wasn't really that cold when I had landed. During this time, I also made it a point to see um, an old coworker that I used to work with at Oriental, and I also met up with a friend that I was introduced through a mutual friend as well, and we went out for dinner and we also had some drinks at a Yokocho in Ibisu. Basically, the first few days I just kind of spent um, relaxing and just tying up some loose ends and getting a few things since I didn't bring too much in the way of winter clothes here. And I also needed to get some clothes for staying at the hotel, which was actually a bit warm because they were running the heater and it was centrally heated. So, since I only had winter clothes with me, I decided I wanted to get some other types of clothes and other odds and ends during this time. During this first portion of the Tokyo trip, I went ahead and used this time to get reacquainted with the train systems and schedules and also using Apple Maps. It was a good thing that I did this because Apple Maps had improved quite a bit since the last time I had used it for public transit. I really do like the train system here because it's really efficient and quick, sometimes a bit to a fault. And also, just riding the train is great because everybody is so peaceful and it's just relaxing because it's not noisy like how it would be here in the US. On my second full day in Japan, I went to Yokohama via the subway train. It was quite a bit of a uh, journey to get there. I think it took almost about an hour from the hotel that I was staying at in Shinjuku. Um, but once getting there, it was actually a pretty nice area to see. The Gundam factory in Yokohama is probably about a 10-minute walk from the station where you get out from. Um, and it's basically located near what would be, I guess, like a boat harbor of some sort. Um, Basically, you see that there's a waterfront area, and you can see a bit of the Yokohama skyline. As you approach the Gundam factory, you will notice that you can see the tall Gundam robot from the outside entrance. Uh, from this little area, of course, there are a few people who are visiting the attraction, and they are all uh, getting a preview of what they've come to see at this location. So once you get through, if you bought your ticket ahead of time online, you can just walk up to a person on the right side, which is in front of a hallway that leads into the main area. Once you get into the main area, you can immediately see the Gundam robot standing tall in front of you. Depending on when you arrive there, you can sometimes see it in action, actually moving forward or doing some other stuff. And off to the right hand side is basically the Gundam factory store where you can buy several of the Gundam models that are on display, actually, which are related to the Gundam that's actually here. In fact, one of the what they call Gunpla models is actually of the actual robot that's standing outside and moving. You can also get various model robot kits here, all of which don't need to be painted or glued together. You just need to get some snipping tools and some other stuff, which are also sold at the same store. They also have a few other models on display. They also have some music that's available, and in fact, they are even playing one of the albums in the store. There's also some keychains, some shirts. There's quite a few display areas within the store itself where you can see a bunch of stuff. So it's pretty cool. Up above the Gundam Factory store, there is a Gundam Factory Cafe. This cafe is basically a restaurant which serves a bunch of fun food items, either themed around Gundam and some other characters and whatnot. And you can also get some cool souvenirs here. There's a touchpad here which displays the menu in Japanese, English, Korean, and I think probably Chinese or something like that. I'm not really sure. On the menu, you can find stuff like hamburgers. You can also find some hot dogs, bento box, and you can also find some other stuff for kids. I tried a BLT burger from this place. They also have some other cool items, specialty items like curry. They have some pretzels. They have basically a bowl-looking bun, which looks like that little orb thing um, that you see in the animated anime. They also have some dessert here, one of which is a custard which comes in a collectible cup. They also have a variety of drinks, which include coffees, soft drinks like soda, and smoothies, coffee, tea, and some other stuff. I bought a um, blue soda, which comes in a collectible water bottle type of thing. So once you finish choosing what you want, click OK, and then a little receipt prints out. You take that receipt and you basically go to the counter where you'll present the receipt to the person, and they will go ahead and give you, or they'll go ahead and charge you for the items that you ordered, and you can either pay in cash or you can use tap to pay if you have your card. So here is the BLT burger that I got. What I thought was a little bit strange was that the bacon didn't look like it was crispy or cooked. Here's the custard and the blue soda that comes in the collectible bottle, which is pretty cool. So the next part of what I'm about to show you is for the observation deck that goes up close to the actual Gundam robot. This is a separate charge, so you would need to have bought this part of the ticket, either when you bought it online, or I'm not sure if you can buy it when you arrive at the actual location. But basically, what you have to do is you buy a ticket to come in to this Gundam factory, which does not include the ability to get up close and personal with the actual giant robot. But if you did buy the ticket that goes to the observation deck, it should tell you in the ticket that you bought what time you have to line up in order to go to this observation deck. It'll be on the ticket and it'll show you the exact time that you need to go to the designated area, which is basically on the right hand side of where the robot is outside. And you'll stand in the line and a bunch of the workers will come out and they will have you form into however many groups of people that have bought tickets. And there's a little area on the outside where you go ahead and put any big bags or whatever into coin lockers to store while you go up and look at the actual Gundam robot. So for me, I had bought some stuff from the Gundam store, and they went ahead and asked me to put that package into coin locker. So because I was part of the first group that went to the that wound up being in line, we went into the elevator and we were taken to the first level. I believe there's like 2 or 3 levels in total. So the very first level that they take you to, you get to see the robot up close and personal from about the midsection. And so basically the way it works is they have the robot fully in dock, and when it's about to move, they start playing some music and you see some walkways move out of the way so that the robot can move forward and essentially be undocked. It's a pretty cool sight to see because it's a very huge robot. It's fairly lifelike. But you can kind of also tell that it's not quite big enough probably to fit an actual person, you know, even a Japanese person. I don't think would be able to fit into the actual, where the cockpit should be for the robot to pilot it. So, like I said, there's multiple decks. So, on the second deck, as pictured here, you get to see the robot from an even higher angle. And really, what's cool about this is that you get to see all the details of the robot up close and personal. So, every little thing about this robot, front, the back, the side, the front of it, you get to see it pretty much up close. Only thing that you won't see from the observation deck, of course, for obvious reasons, is the feet. But you can see that from the bottom, and from what I understand, you can actually see some details that they put under the feet and whatnot. So, a bunch of companies did collaborate together to build this giant robot and collaborated to also program the machinery that would operate it so that it could, you know, walk forward, point toward the sky, point toward people, move its head, you know, do all those sorts of simple robot things. Again, it's a really cool sight to see, and during the day, it's really nice. As I understand it, it's also pretty cool to watch at night, but I didn't stay long enough to see that. Um, but either way, it's a really cool sight to see, like I said, and it's just amazing to see all of the engineering that went into putting together this massive robot. The last area that I visited when I was at the attraction was in this area called the Gundam Lab. Basically, here they have a little exhibit area that talks about all the different companies and people that collaborated together to put together the giant robot. Um, and it has various profiles on key people that were involved. There's also a little area where there's a simple robot putting together a simplistic Gunpla model kit, which is pretty cool. There's also a bit of history about, um, the actual Gundam robots. So there's some cutaways of various parts where it's meant to kind of show how, in the fictional world of Gundam, the robot was meant to operate. And also, there's a little play area for kids to also put together a simplistic version of the Gundam robot, which I guess is supposed to kind of teach them a little something. Overall, it was a pretty cool exhibit, worth seeing. On the next day of my trip in Japan, I went to Kawasaki City to visit the Fujiko F. Fujio Museum. Fujiko F. Fujio is the creator of the Doraemon character, which started out as a manga back in 1969 and later was adapted to television in 1973. The Doraemon character is basically a blue robot cat from the future who comes back to the past to help out a young child named Nobito, who is basically having a lot of issues with, school and whatnot. So he comes from the future to help Nobito out and to help him grow into a well-adjusted young man. Upon arrival at Kawasaki City, you arrive at the train station, which I believe is called Nobito as well, and features a lot of theming related to the Doraemon character. As such, it is a pretty interesting way, an introduction to the area where the museum is located. Alright, so I just made it to the Doraemon Museum, or actually the Fujiko F. Fujio Museum, and just placed an order for some food. It's pretty cool. It's a nice sized cafe. There's this thing here, which has a QR code here, which you scan, and you place your order to the kitchen. You have the QR code in your mobile phone, and they bring it right to you. pretty convenient. Yeah, nice little restaurant here. After having lunch at the cafe at the Doraemon Museum, I went ahead and took a walk outside in the outdoor area of the museum. In this little outdoor area, there are several um, pieces which feature the actual Doraemon character as well as his supporting characters. There's also a nice little river area which features what looks like a brontosaurus with Doraemon and I believe Nobita sitting on top of it next to a waterfall area. There's also a magic door which Doraemon uses sometimes to transport him and Nobita to other areas. It was a pretty cool overall experience seeing the outdoor area that's attached to the museum. This is a nice little area where kids can basically run around and experience the museum from an outdoor perspective. There's also a nice little area where you can walk through, which is above a second floor area. From this top area, you basically can see some fixtures attached to the building which have Doraemon's other supporting characters, as well as a bench and some other stuff that are placed outside. If you look a little bit outward from this area into the city, you get a nice view of Kawasaki City, which is the area that surrounds the museum. Going on further, if you walk down to the first level, you will see another area where there is some other characters on a slanted wall, and you will also see a bronze statue of Doraemon, some of the popular supporting characters, and the creator himself, Fujiko F. Fujio. Down on the second floor, where the bronze statue is that was in this video earlier, there's an entrance into the Doraemon Museum. In this area, there's a little place where you can read some of the various Doraemon mangas, and there's also a nice little replica of the house that Nobita lives in. This house is, I believe, constructed out of various plastic pieces and some wood pieces as well. And from one side you can see the full exterior of the house, and when you go around to the other side you can see the interior spaces of the house. On the first floor there's a living room which features a little coffee table and a television, and on the second floor we see Nobita's room, which features various textbooks, some robot plastic models, and some board games, as well as some manga that he's reading with a desk where he is supposed to be doing his homework. There's also an area here that goes back on the first floor that shows the entryway to the house and some stairways leading up to the second floor. And on the far left there is a bathroom that's featured. The rest of the museum on this floor also shows some other exhibits of Doraemon. There's another area where kids can play a little bit, and there's also two different gachapon machines, which feature a transparent bust of Doraemon with various gachapon capsules, and right below that are the machines where you can get the gachapon toys. On the other side of this little area is also a theater where you can watch, I believe, a documentary about the creation of Doraemon and see some selected anime movies and shows. On the evening of Thursday night in my trip to Japan, I met up with my friend's girlfriend's family in Asakusa to have some dinner and briefly explore the area. Asakusa is kind of a nice area of Japan, I think. It kind of reminds me of a more traditional Japan, and it's a very nice area. The night that I visited, it was pretty cold, so I think it was like in the low to mid 40s or something like that. And so some of the places that featured outdoor restaurants and whatnot had this plastic covering on the outside so as to help with keeping the place warm. One of the places that we went to was a bar which featured some awesome food, and then we continued walking around, and my friend's girlfriend's family offered to buy me a scarf and some gloves because I had left the ones that I had at the hotel, not thinking that it was going to be cold on this particular night. It was overall a pretty nice journey into a part of Japan that I hadn't been to as of this time. On our next stop in Asakusa, we went out for some monjayaki and okonomiyaki. Okonomiyaki and monjayaki are basically these pancake-like dishes which consist of some vegetables such as dashi, and they are made with a little bit of water and some sort of wheat-like paste. They also usually feature a variety of meats such as octopus
We
or
have some.
squid. I think some have pork and maybe chicken. The main difference with monjayaki is that it tends to be a little bit more like melted cheese, and so it has a more liquid-like constitution to it. Um, Monjayaki is also considered to have originated in Tokyo as well, whereas okonomiyaki has more of an origin, I believe, in Osaka. In this video, you can see that there is a flat iron in the middle of the table with the chef doing all of the preparation for the two dishes, and it's quite a sight to see. As you can see, they put on the vegetables, they put on the toppings, and they essentially, I guess, cook it up or fry it up on the flat iron. Monjayaki, you normally have these tiny little spatulas which you can see the family members using, and this is how you get little portions of the monjayaki onto your plate to eat. In contrast, okonomiyaki generally gets cut up into several large chunks. Has it actually becomes a thicker sort of pancake like dish, so the pieces wind up being a lot bigger, and subsequently it's a little bit more traditional in how you eat it. You generally don't cut up okonomiyaki into tiny little pieces with a spatula and take only the small pieces. But in any case, this is definitely one of my favorite dishes in Japan, and one that I would definitely highly recommend people have when they're there and have a chance if they haven't already had it before.
딱 또 유튜브.
유튜브だから 유튜브 じゃもしかしたら So
Yeah, you will see. I'll send you link.
Thank you. あれなんかママテレビで見れるブライアンが作った YouTube。
はい、あ、こっちで同じくね。
マヨネーズかけたで。
あ、上手上手上手上手ね、できた。うまいうまいうまいうまい。それで OK。青のり切ってる。あれ？いいよいいよ、青のりかけて大丈夫だよ。
After my stay in Tokyo, I took a brief trip to visit a friend in Fukuoka. Unfortunately, because I had come down with a stomach bug, I didn't really get a chance to grab any footage from the Fukuoka portion of the trip. But nonetheless, here is some footage from the Shinkansen going from Fukuoka towards Tokyo. On Sunday, I left from Fukuoka, as you can see in the earlier part of the video, to go towards Yokosuka, and I finally arrived in the early evening at Yokosuka station. I believe it was actually Zushi, where I met my old college friend who picked me up and drove me down to his house. Because I was still kind of having some stomach issues at that time, it wasn't really, I guess, what I would call pleasant experience upon my first arrival here. But it was also still fairly cold, and the temperature in Japan was still in the lower 40s. So when I arrived at my friend's house in Yokosuka, he and his family decided to make two different kinds of nabe, or basically hot pot. Hot pot consists of various vegetables and meats which are put into a pot filled with water, and you can fill it also with various types of broth, and you basically let the food in the pot come to a boil, and I guess after maybe 20 or 30 minutes, when it's all finished, you can go ahead and eat it. I normally am not a fan of hot pot, to be honest, but because it was so cold upon my arrival in Yokosuka, and it had been cold for quite a while since I left Tokyo earlier, this was like the perfect thing because I really wanted something kind of warm, and it was also just right for my stomach, which was still kind of giving me some problems. So it was definitely a great meal to have, and one that's perfect for a home cooked meal at that too. On the following day, after having hot pot, my friend took me out and I did a little bit of shopping. I asked him to take me to Yodobashi Camera, where I picked up a few electronic things that I had been wanting. One of which was a battery pack for the phone, which I could just attach on magnetically, has its MagSafe charger. In addition, I also had him take me to a Uniqlo to get some other warm weather clothes to wear inside of his apartment. As is typical with most Japanese apartments, they usually don't have central heating, so I found it easier to just go ahead and get some long sleeved sweatpants and sweatshirts to wear while I'm at the house to keep warm. He also took me on a bit of a tour of the city, and we went sightseeing, and it was a lot of fun. Later in the evening, we also went to a public bath, which I believe is called Yokosuka Yura. The public bath is, I believe, attached to a hot spring, and at this place, it's basically a resort where you can get massages, you can take a nice hot bath, and additionally, they have a restaurant where you can get a meal before you leave. And here we are. This is the part of my friend Masa's house, who I'm staying with for the past few days. Straight ahead, as you can see, is the ocean. It's like almost near the beachfront. Probably walking distance, maybe a little over 100 feet to get to the beach. It's pretty cold. It snowed recently, but still too cold to try and go in the water unless you're one of those kind of people that can handle that kind of cold weather. This is the living room here. Small couch, entryway into the bedroom where I was just at. This is the kitchen, and there is a TV with air conditioning and exercise machine. And then this is the dining room. This dining room, there is a kitchen attached. There's a pantry closet here. Refrigerator. There is 3 bins for trash, combustible and plastic and miscellaneous. And this is the sink with a oven and stove. This next part here goes into the hallway. This is hallway closet. To the right here, this is the entry to the upstairs where my friend lives. And to the right here is the laundry room and bathroom to shower. So this is the washing machine, that's the sink where you brush your teeth and do other things. And behind those doors there is the shower and tub. Here is the entrance to the house. This is where all guests, including Masa and his family, come in. And here is this is the toilet. So it's typical Japanese toilet. It also has some handrails for somebody if they're handicapped. So it's a pretty nice little place to stay. It's a place that Masa rents out to visitors who want to come to Japan and want to stay in a nice house in countryside, or live in a house that's fairly country looking. So yeah, anyway, that's a quick short tour. On the final day of my trip in Yokosuka visiting my college friend, he took me around the rest of Yokosuka, which involved a drive by the ocean side. The drive was really nice, and I got to see a lot of the sea from the shoreline. I believe the area that we were passing through is kind of known as like a little resort area. From this point of view, as you can see in the video, you get a nice view of the shoreline, and it actually looks a lot like areas in Hawaii, which is pretty cool, to be honest. Definitely a nice little drive. One of the last places that we visited on my last day in Yokosuka was the shopping area right outside of Kamakura. Kamakura itself is actually the home to one of the largest temples and has one of the largest Buddha statues. This little shopping area that we went through consists of a variety of streets that I believe run parallel with each other and feature a variety of different shops where you can buy all sorts of goodies, including some more traditional stuff that you would associate with Japan. On this trip, I didn't go to the temple as I'd been there on a previous trip, but this was definitely a fun little journey. We then ended our little stay together by going to a nearby mall, and we had some yakiniku, which is basically a Japanese barbecue. with a grill in the middle of the table. There's various meats and whatnot that you can throw on the grill, and you order the meats, they bring it to you, and you cook it yourself. It's a pretty fun little experience if you haven't tried it before. Back in Tokyo, I met up with a friend in Sunshine City in the Ikebukuro Prefecture. We walked around for a bit. We checked out a Bandai Namco thing that was on one of the upper levels, and we also went strolling through an area that was just rows and rows of gachapon machines. It was totally crazy. After that, we went to a tonkatsu restaurant, which I believe is called Imakatsu. It was definitely one of the better places that I've had tonkatsu from, for sure. On my last full day in Tokyo, which I believe was Saturday, I went to Yodobashi Camera, and actually I don't recall which location in Tokyo this was, but I went browsing around to the store, and it was definitely a pretty amazing electronics store for sure. It's basically like a version of, it's like Japan's version of Best Buy, except like on like a super duper version of Best Buy. I believe this location had about 5 floors, which were actually pretty decently sized. You could find all kinds of stuff from smartphones, you could find headphones, earbuds, you could also find charging cables, and all that kind of stuff. On Sunday, I made my way from the hotel that I was staying at in Tokyo, which actually is nearby to Haneda Airport, and I made my way to the airport so that I would be ready to catch my flight. My flight wasn't until like 11 o'clock or like close to midnight of that day, but I decided that it would be best to just head to the airport and chill instead of, spending any more time at the hotel or wandering around the city only to lose track of time. Haneda International Airport, Terminal 3, is where basically the international flights arrive and depart. And it is, I believe, one of the biggest areas of Haneda Airport. As you can see in this clip, this I believe is the 3rd floor area, and this is right past the check-in lobbies, but before security. So at the top here, this area basically is a nice little area where you can rest. Just before you get to this area, there's actually some restaurants. And here's a view from one of the observation, or I guess areas where you can overlook the departure lobbies and stuff. And then finally, I had my last meal in the airport. I don't actually recall what the name of this tonkatsu place was, but it was a pretty good meal. I got seated at, I guess, like the counter area, and so from this vantage point, I could watch this female person cooking and prepping the various katsu dishes, which was actually pretty cool to watch while waiting for my food to arrive. This was definitely a good meal, and one that I'm glad that I made as my last meal before finally departing Japan to come back to Hawaii. Okay, so I'd like to share a few tips from my recent Japan trip that I think a lot of people will find very useful. Some of these tips are just things that I kind of realized or tried out on this trip, which I found to be helpful, and I think most of you will find them helpful as well. So my first tip basically is to make use of a service called Takibin, or a luggage forwarding service. Basically, the luggage forwarding service is provided by some of the major transport companies in Japan, such as Yamato Transport is one of them, Sagawa Express is another, and I believe Japan Post also offers this. There's also when you land in Haneda or Narita Airport, or in fact any airport in Japan, especially on the international side, there's usually a counter where it basically says luggage forwarding. So what you do is you go up to that counter with the luggage that you want to have forwarded to your next destination, such as a hotel, or maybe if you're staying with a friend or something. You just basically give them that information, and depending on how much luggage you are trying to have sent to that destination, there will be a chart that lists the fees. I believe it's usually somewhere around $10 to $20 for a large suitcase. So again, depending on how many pieces of luggage that you're trying to have sent to that next destination, that's basically the fee that will be paid. One thing to note though when using these services is that once you drop off your luggage, you won't have access to them until they get delivered to your destination. And usually that basically means that that the luggage will arrive at your destination the next day, usually by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you'll definitely have to plan accordingly and pull out enough clothes for the next day, so that or for the day basically, so that you'll have clean clothes to wear for the duration until you receive your luggage at the destination. And so what I basically did is I pulled out a set of clothes for the next day and put it into the duffel bag that I was bringing along as a personal bag. And this is really convenient because although there are subway trains and also Shinkansen bullet trains for going long distances between the prefectures, the big problem really comes down to if you're just 1 or 2 people and you're trying to transport, like let's say in my case 2 large suitcases, a duffel bag, and a backpack. That's a total pain in the ass. And let me tell you, it's definitely a pain in the ass when you're trying to go between the floors to the platform where the trains are, because in most train stations, although there are elevators, they may be quite a far walk from wherever you enter through the turnstiles. And not to mention, just having to drag around a lot of luggage plus personal items is a bit of a pain in the ass. Especially if those suitcases are full. And then on top of all that, the other thing to consider is, especially with the commuter trains, they tend to be fairly busy throughout the day. And, having to manage multiple pieces of luggage, including personal bags and stuff, that's a bit of a pain in the ass, especially if it just so happens that you're traveling via the subway commuter trains, and there's a lot of people. So using the luggage forwarding service is definitely helpful. It's especially helpful, again, like I said, if even if you're traveling to another hotel within the same prefecture. You know, if you're going from Hotel A to Hotel B, and even if it's in the same prefecture, it might still be worth it. Again, because you won't have to worry about having to lug all that luggage with you on the trains, which, as I said before, can be very, very busy, and that's just tiring and also a pain in the ass. So definitely make use of a service like that. My second tip is to not be afraid to use a taxi or taxi service, especially one such as Uber, which actually is available in Japan and actually is used for hailing a taxi. My tip for using a taxi is, use it especially at the end of a long day, whether it be you're coming back in the afternoon or late afternoon, or in the evening at some point. So what I basically did personally is I would take the train to go to whichever destination that I wanted to go to, and I would also take the same subway train to come back to where I'm staying. But depending on how tired I was and how much things I was carrying, I made use of the taxi. Because sometimes you're just simply really tired from having to walk between so many places, through the trains and all that stuff, and towards the destinations in the place where you're headed to. So that can definitely be a bit of that can make it really tiring, especially if you're doing that. And especially if you're staying multiple days, and especially if you have like a busy day the next day, this can help save a little bit of energy, or at least help you to conserve a little bit of energy when you're traveling. As I mentioned earlier, Japan is primarily mass transit, especially in the cities, so you're going to be walking a hell of a lot, even if you're taking trains, because just going to and from destinations, even if they might be somewhat close to the train, it's still going to be a bit of a walk, and you'll definitely be probably walking several thousand steps a day at minimum. So you're definitely going to get tired, and again, I would definitely recommend using a taxi if you need to, especially when you get back to the destination station where your hotel is located. The other thing, like I mentioned earlier, is if you are carrying a bunch of stuff, sometimes it's just easier to take a taxi back to where you're staying. Then that way you don't have to worry about keeping track of all your stuff, or you don't have to contend with carrying all of that on a crowded train, because that definitely becomes a pain in the ass for sure. So my third and final tip is to get a Wise International debit card. Before going on this Japan trip, I went ahead and got signed up for the Wise International debit card, which basically allows you to exchange one currency for another. So it's you can basically exchange. In my instance, I exchanged US dollars for Japanese yen. So what that basically meant is I could buy $100 US dollars worth of Japanese yen, and
the company Wise would take care of the transaction, and they would, they would hold the balance of however much Japanese yen that I bought. So it basically holds on to it like, like a checking account or a savings account. Except, you can keep the currency in that specific amount in the account, and then with the Wise debit card, you can use that to either pay for things using, it's like a debit card, so you just use it as a normal debit card, or you could also use the card at ATMs and withdraw cash. So if I wanted cash, I could go to like a 7-Eleven ATM, put in the card, and withdraw however much yen that I needed, and it would deduct it from the account balance. So again, this is actually really useful for me, because like I said, you can exchange currencies, and you can do it with the associated app. So when you sign up for a Wise account, you basically fill in the information, they send you a Wise card in the mail, you activate it, and that card is associated with your Wise account. And so from there, you can start to buy various currencies of your choosing, and you can purchase it using whatever currency that you want. So if you're like me and you use US dollars, you basically would exchange your US dollars for Japanese yen. You could exchange it for like peso. You could, I believe, Russian ruble or whatever that currency is. Like I said, basically you can just exchange your US dollars or whatever your native currency is for another one. And they'll take care of all the transaction and everything. And the fee is pretty minimal. And again, your Wise account is just like a checking or savings account, and the balance of whatever currency that you bought will stay there. So, like I said, you can use the card at various places in Japan, especially in the major cities. Most places took debit or credit, so I actually added the Wise card into Apple Pay, and I used Tap to Pay in most instances, such as when I was catching the taxis, or when I went to restaurants and was offered the choice to pay using Tap to Pay or even credit or debit, and it just deducted the amount of money needed from the balance, and that was that. So it's really simple. It minimizes the amount of actual cash that is needed on hand, so you don't have to worry about losing physical cash. Like if you lose your wallet, however much money you had there, that's all gone unless you recover it. But in this case, if you lose your wallet or whatever, you'll still have the balance of currency that you purchased still in your Wise account. And if you have the Wise card added into your digital wallet, you can still use Tap to Pay services, and you'll have access to your funds. So it's definitely something that I highly recommend. And in this case, as I mentioned, in most places in Japan, especially most major stores and most major places in the city accepted basically the Wise card or tap to pay option. So it was really convenient, and I also actually used that to top up my digital Suica card. So that was super useful because I didn't need to actually go to a kiosk to top up my Suica card. And whenever I needed to get more yen, which actually I only did it once, I could just basically do it through the app and exchange however much US dollars into Japanese yen, and that took care of everything. And I was on my way. I didn't have to go interact with anybody, and I could do it straight from my smartphone. So definitely something convenient and worth having, and definitely in a place like Japan, which, like I said, nowadays they actually do utilize services such as credit or debit payments or tap to pay in most areas, especially in the city. I hope this video and some of these tips that I've shared were helpful, and I definitely look forward to traveling to Japan again in the future. I don't think I'll be going back again this year, but I definitely would love to go back again really soon, and I will definitely utilize the tips that I have mentioned just now. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment for me or any questions that you may have down below. Thanks.